Welcome back, scholars. Today we're discussing the work of science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. He was an interesting fellow, to say the very least. He led a very tumultuous lifestyle, suffered from paranoia and mental illness, wrote much of his work fueled by benzodrine and alcohol. His twin sister, died of malnutrition at 8 weeks old, something that haunted him for the rest of his life. He had a mystical experience on February 3rd, 1974, and spent the last 8 years of his life trying to figure it out. Surprisingly, he never completed college. He was a terrible husband, married 5 times, fathered 3 children. He began writing in the 1950s and 1960s with the arrival of the nuclear age. The Cold War and space travel made both futuristic scenarios and apocalyptic visions much more plausible. His works were studied by the postmodernists and the general public. Interesting fellow. Films based on his work: Blade Runner, Total Recall, which was based on the story We Can Remember It For You Any Way You Like, Minority Report, The Adjustment Bureau, and many others. His stories read like logic problems, really. The idea that there is no objective truth is something that appears here. That it's a recurring theme in his stories. What appears to be true is one thing, but then when we find out the opposite is true, but then that turns out to be false also. So where are we, right? This happens a lot in his stories. Philip K. Dick is one of those enigmatic figures, a very troubled soul, and like a lot of literary geniuses, he actually believed in the idea that perhaps we are all living in one massive simulation, right? Kind of the idea that inspires the Randonautica app or the movie The Matrix, where this is all just some giant, huge computer simulation, and that we're all just running through our lives as parts of the simulation. Try not to think about it too long. Your eyes will start to cross, and you go nuts. So that kind of thought, that fear of that this is all just a simulation and we're just parts of it, it kind of factors into Precious Artifact. In fact, it's the main plot point here. There's a war between the Earth and Proxima over Mars. A real estate war, like most wars actually are at their heart. Both planets are hoping to achieve or to acquire Mars for colonization due to the population explosion on both planets, us and Proxima. Milt Biskel is an engineer who has, and I'm looking at my notes over here, who has been terraforming Mars in order to make it livable for humans, right? He's completed his work and he just wants to go home. That's it. He's been on Mars for about 6 years now, and he's tired. He wants to get back to his wife and family. He is deeply suspicious that he's been lied to, and that the people that he works for are actually agents of Proxima. He's told that his fellow engineers that he's suspicious, and he books passage on a ship back to Earth, but he's fairly certain that they won't let him see just a whole lot. Okay, so immediately things seem off, because when he drops a dime in a Venetian machine, it falls right through. Or I'm sorry, a vending machine drops right through. Now, this is a vending machine for drugs, for narcotics, benzodrines, and things like that. So his host tells him, Mother Mrs. Abelseth, tells him that the Proximans won, that the remaining Terrans, that's people of Earth, are slaves. Now he's on to them from the very start when he sees his wug plant dies from a lack of moisture. As he figures out, okay, well, there's not enough moisture on Earth because the oceans are gone as a result of the war. They've been evaporated. Comes to a head when they take him to a museum and he smashes the display and seizes a rifle just to get them to confess. Right? He grabs it and he smashes it. He says, "All right, you're going to tell me what's going on." But he agrees to work with them if they'll just show him the truth. right? Just the truth. They tell him they will because he's taking it better than they would have thought. Right? The idea was we're gonna, we figured the truth would just drive you nuts, but you seem to be handling it pretty well. That the fact that we won, so here's what it is. And they show him the city, which is decimated, just ruins, just as he expected. No one on Earth survived. He asks if he can go back to Mars, and they give him a pet cat as his request. He goes, "That's the only thing he wants is a pet cat." The cats have somehow survived. On the return trip, he attempts suicide, but he changes his mind, and then the Proximans are the same genus as humans. He says so they could actually crossbreed. You can actually restart the population, repopulate Earth over time. Milt holds out hope that over time he'll create a new race that is neither Terran nor Proximan. Right? That way they won't have the same conflicts that they had before, that they'll build in something better. In the end, it's revealed that the cat is actually a robotic cat, and that the world was far more devastated than they'd led him to believe. And Dr. DeWinter muses that humans lost because they were not realistic, that their minds focused on phantoms, things like, the family or the ideas of the past, that sort of thing. Yeah. Kind of depressing piece of literature, but you can see why the postmodernists kind of latched onto it here, because a big factor in postmodernism is nihilism. Nihilism is the belief that there is, there's nothing of intrinsic value, that there's nothing beyond the human experience, that our existence here is just a big cosmic mistake, an interruption in our nothingness. Right? First there was nothing, then thanks to a huge mistake or some glitch in the system, we came about, and then when we're dead, we're nothing again. Right? Although Philip K. Dick actually had a species of spirituality. He believed in a species of, believed in God after a fashion. Probably not in the way that the Christian belief system is, but anyway, deeply troubled individual, but created some incredible literature. So, yeah, pretty much a product of its time. Growing up and writing in the 50s in the wake of the atomic bomb, you see that a lot in his literature. A lot of it seems a little dated now. The idea of personal helicopters fly from one place to the other still seems a little out of reach and even kind of archaic. But fascinating story nonetheless. Okay, so that is American science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. Hope you enjoyed the work, or hopefully weren't too freaked out about it. And keep looking for those glitches in the Matrix. I'll see you in the next video.